The National Electoral Council of Venezuela meets with the accredited diplomatic corps and international observers in view of the upcoming presidential elections on July 28th. In Haiti, the health system is near collapse as criminal gangs continue to attack and take control of hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies. And activists and families of prisoners gathered in Ramallah and Gaza to commemorate Palestinian Prisoners' Day, calling for release of detainees from Israeli jails. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with news. The National Electoral Council of Venezuela meets with the accredited diplomatic corps and international observers in view of the upcoming presidential elections on July 28th. Previously, members of the Carter Center met with the authorities of the National Electoral Council in compliance with the electoral chronogram for the presidential elections. Likewise, the Council had received the technical delegation of the European Union in its second meeting with the Venezuelan electoral power. On the other hand, the President of the National Electoral Council, Elvis Amoroso, strongly rejected the false information about the electoral process and reiterated the participation of the media in the decisions of the elections.
There has not been at any time in this whole process that we call with 40% completed in just 1 month. There is no decision where the media and public opinion have not participated. I say this because it is very easy to distort information or tell lies, which we repudiate.
All the missions accredited in Venezuela are here today, and we are fulfilling an important task of providing first-hand information. As each of the governments and institutions accredited to our country requested to do, and we have also connected our 107 diplomatic missions abroad to serve as interlocutors of the advances of the electoral process.
In Asunción, the capital of Paraguay, thousands of university students protested to demand the restitution of funds for health and education programs. The protest takes place in the midst of a law enacted by the government of Santiago Peña, which supposedly would seek to universalize school meals but compromises funds from other areas. In this framework, progressive and opposition legislators are working with the student organizations on a bill to guarantee funds for zero fees in public universities, research scholarships, early childhood and health programs, which were underfunded by the government of Santiago Peña. The President of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, arrived in Colombia on Tuesday to meet with his counterpart, Gustavo Petro, and make progress in bilateral cooperation. The Brazilian president was received by the Foreign Ministry of Charge of Colombia, Luis Gilberto Murillo, at the Catam Air Base in Bogotá. Lula da Silva travels accompanied by his Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira and by high-level governmental delegations. On Wednesday, Lula and Petro met to talk about bilateral trade investments, Amazon cooperation, family agriculture, and measures to fight hunger, among other topics. At present, Brazil is Colombia's third-largest trading partner behind the United States and China, and both governments will seek to continue expanding this trade. In Haiti, the health system is near collapse as criminal gangs continue to attack and take control of hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies. The country's largest public medical facility was forced to close its operations after the area fell under gang control joining 13 other hospitals in Port-au-Prince that have suspended services. According to human rights organizations, attacks by criminal gangs on health centers have left the most deprived sectors of the population without access to adequate medical care. Despite law enforcement efforts to curb gang violence, armed criminal groups have repeatedly attacked the country's medical facilities, bringing Haiti's health system to the brink of total paralysis.
There are no doctors, no nurses, no medical staff. The doctors can't even come here. None of the three main hospitals serving low-income communities in Port-au-Prince are functioning properly. The Sanatorium Hospital in Port-au-Prince, a specialized teaching hospital accessible to all, was looted by a group of gang members.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Activists and families of prisoners gathered in Ramallah and Gaza holding Palestinian flags and portraits of Palestinians detained in Israeli prisons as they commemorate Palestinian Prisoners' Day, calling for release of detainees from Israeli jails. Rallies have been planned in Ramallah and Gaza to mark Palestinian Prisoners' Day in honor of the thousands of Palestinians who are being detained in Israeli jails. According to local media, activists and families of prisoners gathered on Wednesday, calling on the international community to intervene to release some of the Palestinian prisoners, especially those who are on hunger strike. Several of the Palestinian prisoners have not been charged with a crime. The Palestinian Prisoners Society says more than 215 children and 14 women are in jail. In Palestine, summer is coming and temperatures are rising. As an alternative, Palestinians go to the beaches to cool off and take a bath because of the lack of water in the Gaza Strip. Let's watch the following report by our correspondent Nur Harazan.
The war on Gaza started on October the 7th. Back then, Palestinians were welcoming a new winter, the winter of 2023 and 2024. Now, summer has approaches. Very hot weather here in the Gaza Strip, and displaced Palestinians who are still facing the Israeli offensive on the coastal enclave have nothing to do but to gather themselves and go to the beach in a way to also use the water of the sea. As you can see here behind me, we have actually a big number of people, whole families, children, women, who came to the beach to take a swim, to clean themselves, especially that here in the Gaza Strip we are facing the lack of water. So Palestinians are using the seawater as an alternative. And yes, this is the situation here in Gaza during Israel's war, and after 6 months of this Israeli war in the coastal enclave, apparently Palestinians reached a point where they have no fear. Talking about also the latest highlights here in Gaza, and according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 46 Palestinians were killed in Gaza over the past 24 hours, and this brought up the death toll up to 33,900 people. Nur Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani warns of the risk of expansion of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the region following the failure of international talks. The Qatari Prime Minister said that negotiations for a new ceasefire in the Gaza Strip are in a tense phase in which no breakthrough is shown. Due to Israel's rejection of Hamas' proposal for an immediate ceasefire and the release of the Palestinian hostages, the leader of the Qatari diplomacy stated that that this situation could trigger an escalation of violence in the region that would affect all the countries of the continent. The Lebanese resistance Hezbollah launched guided missiles and drones against an Israeli military reconnaissance headquarters in the town of Arab al-Ramsha. The Hezbollah resistance movement affirmed that the attack is a response to the killing of several resistance fighters by Israeli bombardments in several cities of the country. The resistance confirmed casualties in the Israeli army ranks in the action targeting the aforementioned Israeli headquarters. In another action, the resistance targeted a gathering of enemy troops near the Ramia site with missiles and artillery shells. The Lebanese resistance continues its strikes against targets belonging to the Tel Aviv regime in support of Palestine in the midst of the Israeli genocide and in retaliation to the bombardments of cities in southern Lebanon. The government of Iran stressed that Operation True Promise offered a new balance of power in West Asia. In his message addressed to Major General Abdurrahim Mousavi, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian expressed his gratitude and that of the Persian Foreign Ministry for the precise and effective planning, design and implementation of the operation in response to the attacks by the Israeli regime. He also reaffirmed that the measure was carried out on the basis of the principle of self-defense as stipulated in Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. The Iranian Foreign Minister highlighted the power of the Iranian armed forces in response to the constant aggressions of the Israeli occupation regime. Syria reaffirms its commitment to resistance during the 78th anniversary of independence from French colonialism. The residents of Golan, occupied by Israel since 1967, consider that the date will continue as a guide for the struggle and the defense of the country's sovereignty. They express their rejection of the occupation and all the Tel Aviv's expansionist and malicious plans aimed at separating the Golan from the motherland. The ruler of the Socialist Arab Ba'ath Party affirmed that the struggle and sacrifice are part of the culture and beliefs of the Syrian people, who fight the battle against terrorism and imperialism that seeks to impose its control over the self-determination of the peoples. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. With Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.